Alright, we're back here at our animate panel that we tried to make. We got the ball on the screen. We're now going to try to get that ball, or we had it moving on the screen. We now want it to bounce. So our goal right now is to get it to bounce off the edges. So here's where we filled it, line 20, and then we added 1 to X. We delayed a little bit, and then we repainted the screen. So we need to, after we add 1 to X, we need to check if we're at the edge of the screen. So we need to, after here, and I'm just going to put a space in between that so we know what's going on here. We're just going to say if the X value is greater than, and I always like to do greater than or equal to instead of just equal to, and then the edge of the screen. So what's the edge of the screen? We set the size of the panel. Oh, I did it over in the frame in this case. So we set the size of the panel over in the frame. I'll quickly run over there. Over here, we set the preferred size of the panel. Arena was the object of animate panel. We set the preferred size over here to a new dimension of 500 by 500. So this is the width. So it's 500 across. So I'm going to say when it gets to 500. So if X is greater than or equal to 500. The problem is, if we do that, we are going to, we have only control of the top left corner of the ball. And that's the right edge. So we have to actually subtract the diameter of the ball, and these two numbers are the diameter of the ball. So I don't want to say if X is greater than or equal to 500, I actually want to say 480 in this case. Now, eventually we change all these to variables. We don't want to hard code it, but for this one spot, or one chance, we'll give it a whirl. So if that's true, we want it to bounce. We want it to come the other way. Now, most people think, oh, we'll just do X minus minus to make it come back the other direction instead of going X plus plus. But then it will be 479, and it's not greater than or equal to 480, so then it will do X plus plus. So we don't want it to X plus plus and X minus minus. We only want to do one of those, and we want to continue to do this. So we can't use the X plus plus and X minus minus. It's actually a terrible design. So instead of X plus plus, we're going to go up here and make a variable up here at the top, maybe called X add. Doesn't matter what you call it, but we'll call it X add, and we're going to make that equal to 1. And that's what we're going to add each time. So instead of X plus plus, we're going to say X plus equals X add. And then in here, we'll do X add, and we'll change it to -1. So X add equals -1. So now, every time through the loop, when it gets greater than or equal to 480, it'll change X add to -1. So then in here, when it adds X add, it'll actually be adding -1, which is the same thing as subtracting 1. And it will keep subtracting 1, subtracting 1, subtracting 1 forever. We're going to have to put the left side as well. But this should be our way of bouncing off the right wall. Let's give it a whirl and see what happens. And here it is moving across the screen. Remember, we have control of the top left corner, or that's our X value. So it's bouncing when it got to 480. If we waited till 500, it would have been off the screen before it came back. Oops, it went right through the left side, so now we got to figure out how to get it to bounce off the left wall. So if we run back in here, we want to be, if X is greater than or equal to 480, I'd love to just do it as one statement. So I'm going to say or. X is, now in this case, the left wall and the left side of the box are good. So we'll say less than or equal to 0. We don't need to subtract off anything. But now we don't want to set X add equal to -1 if it's less than or equal to 0. We want to set X add back to +1. So if all we want to do is saying if we hit the right wall or the left wall, we want to change the X add variable from what it was to the opposite. And instead of X add equals -1, we'll say times equals -1, which means we're just multiplying by whatever it was times -1, and that will make it change directions as well. So if it is negative, it'll become positive. If it was positive, it would become negative. So now, if we run it, we got it bouncing off, hopefully both walls. Pretty exciting to watch. Woo! Yeah. Hopefully we get a big bounce here. Yes, we got to bounce it off both walls. It's exciting. Now, if I resize the screen, the problem is it doesn't bounce off the wall. It's still bouncing off 500 over here, even if I change the size of the screen. So instead of hard coding that 500, the left side's good because that's always going to be 0. But how can I change it to adjust to the panel size? So instead of this 480, I would like to know how wide the panel is. We could run to the API, and we would find out that there's a method in the JPanel class called getWidth. Now, if it's in the JPanel class, we need an object to call that method. So I don't want to hard code it as 480, so I need an object of the JPanel class. But remember, we're extending JPanel. So that means we're in the JPanel class, or we're inheriting everything from the JPanel class. So that means we can just directly call this method. We don't need an object. So we're just going to say get with, and I'm going to do a control plus and see if it auto completes for me as I start to type it. And there it is. There's a get with method that returns an int, and it tells you what it does over there on the right. That's really nice stuff. Remember, you can pause this video anytime you need to do that. So we're saying if x is greater than or equal to not, but not just get with, because that's the 500 right now. So get with minus, and we could say 20 if we wanted to, because that's the size of our ball. Or again, we could get super fancy. Instead of hard coding these as 20, we can make a variable for the width of the ball, which is really the diameter of the ball. So we'll make another variable. And we could do these all in the same line of code because they're all the same type. But we make that equal to 20. We wouldn't have to do this. It's just a better design. And we would change this to 20 in here, or excuse me, diameter in here both times. And diameter in here again. And now it should bounce off the wall even if I change the size of it. Notice we're just changing the panel, we're never changing the frame. So if I change the size of this and it comes across and hits it, it's going to bounce off it there. Oops. Don't want to move it inside there. And then it's going to bounce off again. All right, so we got to move in left and right. Your job is to make it move up and down, or make the ball move diagonal, and also bounce off the top wall and the bottom wall. We'll eventually add 20 balls or 30 balls, and we're going to have 100 bouncing balls. It's going to be amazing. But that's how to bounce off the walls.